All right, y'all, welcome to the show. Got an awesome one for you today. Excuse the probably poor audio quality. I'm talking to you now from a new apartment. This room will be a studio. Right now, it's not a studio. We don't have the audio foam up around me, so it's going to be a little sharp, little echoey. But don't worry, we're working on it. We'll fix it very quickly. But I got an awesome show for you today. So Donald Trump sat down with Tucker Carlson, and ooh, it is peachy. I'm going to lead with that in just a second. We also have MSNBC literally celebrates the idea that Biden's going to run in 2024. So much for being a news outlet. Obviously, they're very opinionated, very biased. Nikki Haley impotently flails at her opponents in the race. And Destiny, the political streamer Destiny, just absolutely bodies Milo Yiannopoulos in a debate that they had. And oh yeah, the Dalai Lama is sucking on children's tongues. And CNN is going to have some rather curious thoughts for us on that matter. So let's go ahead and dive into it here. So Donald Trump sat down for an interview with Tucker Carlson, and boy, it was a doozy. We got a lot of gem moments in this. So let's dive into it here. We have the classic Trump story, which I think in every single rally he's ever done, he's told one iteration or another of this story. He says, they're coming up to me, they're saying, sir, sir. By the way, anytime he does the sir stories, you know it's fake. Like he makes up, I think it was it Vice or somebody put together a compilation of all the times he's told stories where other people call him sir. He does it like every speech he gives. So he's going to tell one of those stories, tears were pouring, big strong men, and tears were pouring down their faces. Let's dive into it.
And I'll tell you, people were crying. People that work there, professionally work there, that have no problems putting in murderers, and they see everybody. It's tough place. And they were crying. They were actually crying. They said, I'm sorry. They'd say, 2024, sir, 2024. And tears are pouring down their eyes. I've never seen anything like those people are phenomenal. Those are your police.
Yep.
Those are the people that work at the courthouse. They're unbelievable people. Many of them were in tears or close to it. Many apologists were sorry, sir. We're sorry. They had, and I'll tell you, people were crying. People that work.
Okay, it's amazing he says this because we have it all on video. Dude, he got out of the car when he got to the building. He walked in. The walk was like all of 7 seconds. He gets into the courtroom. They go through the arraignment. He walks right out. He didn't say a word to anybody, and nobody said a word to him except, of course, the judge in the courtroom. Dude, we have it all on video. You can't just be, there was a group of people, big strong men, tears rolling down their faces. You can't, it's amazing. Watching a pathological liar in action really is something special, isn't it? Because it's next level with this guy. It reminds me of, remember when he got caught? He used to call all these, these low-tier, smutty celebrity magazines back in the day, and he would say, oh, these women, they love Trump. They love Trump. Madonna loves Trump. All these celebrity women, they want to date Trump. It's really something special. It's really something incredible. He would tell them that. And then he would be like, by the way, this is John Barron. I'm Trump's publicist. I'm not Donald Trump. And then that story came out, and I think it was 2015 or 2016 when he first ran. You heard the literal audio tapes, clearly Trump talking, telling the magazine these things. And then when they called him out on it, he's like, that's not me. That wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about. It's amazing. A pathological liar really is something to watch. All right, so now we move on to environmentalism and the global warming Chinese hoax.
When I listen to people talking about global warming, that the ocean will rise in the next 300 years by 1/8 of an inch, and they talk about this is our problem, our big problem.
Okay, nobody says that. Nobody says that. 1/8 of an inch in 300 years. There's a story that just came out yesterday. The western United States is running out of water. The Colorado River is totally drying up. And this is even with California having a very wet month last month. So the federal government is getting involved in trying to settle the water disputes between Arizona, California, a lot of those western states. This is the dire situation that we're in. Not to mention the increase in extreme weather events, not to mention the fact there will be wars over water elsewhere, not to mention the fact that I've read now 3 or 4 different articles talking about how at some point in the near future, not the distant future, by 2050 or 2100, the Middle East will be too hot for human beings to live in, which means what? New refugee crisis? He just swats it all aside. It's incredible. It's incredibly stupid. It's incredibly short-sighted, and this is classic.
Nuclear warming, when nobody even talks about it.
Let me run that back there.
An inch. And they talk about this is our problem. Our big problem is nuclear warming, when nobody even talks about it. The environmentalists talk about all this nonsense in many cases. Look, I'm an environmentalist also, I guess, in my own way, because I've done a good job with the environment. But nobody talks about nuclear, the problem we have, the biggest problem we have in the whole world. It's not global warming. It's nuclear warming.
Tucker's face at the end there or something. So just to put everything in perspective here, because a lot of people are watching this clip and rightly saying, like, what the hell is he talking about? Nuclear warming? That's not a thing. Like, what is he referring to? I watched the entire interview, and to be fair to Trump, right before this clip, he's talking about the potential of World War III, the fact that Vladimir Putin keeps bringing up nuclear weapons. And so when he says nuclear warming, what he's really saying is, people should fear nuclear war. Now, so it makes sense in a Trumpian kind of way. Like, I understand what he was trying to say. He was talking about nuclear war being a massive issue. But the other point, the most important point is this. You were president for 4 years, and you did Dickie McGee's acts in order to address the issue of nuclear weapons. He didn't limit the number of nuclear weapons. Quite the opposite. He was trying to update our nuclear weapons system, which, by the way, you might look at that and say, oh, that kind of makes sense. I can understand why they do that. No, understand something, guys. The way it works right now, it's on like old school, like 1970s or 1980s type technology. They literally have it on floppy disks to run our nuclear weapons system. Now, that might sound bad, but you know what they are? Unhackable. If you update our nuclear weapons and you put it on the internet in one way or another, well, all of a sudden, then it becomes hackable. So updating it and upgrading it might not be a good idea. But this is, of course, what he wanted to do. Now he's pretending like, nuclear war is so terrible, so wrong, people should be talking about this. But you didn't do anything to move us in the right direction when you were president. All right, more for you.
He only dealt through an interpreter. The only word I ever heard.
So right now he's talking about President Xi of China. And this clip is really interesting because it gives you some insight into how he views the world. And I'm going to break that down for you in a second.
Say was repeat. That's an unusual word. I said,
how smart is he? Could you tell?
Top of the line.
Top of the line.
Yeah, they're all top of the line. Our guy's not top of the line. Never was. These are top of the line people at the top of their game. President Xi is a brilliant man. If you went all over Hollywood to look for somebody to play the role of President Xi, you couldn't find it. There's nobody like that. The look, the brain, the whole thing. We had a great relationship. When he first came to Mar-a-Lago, he came the first day. He was there for a few days. We were going to have it was so organized by them and by us, but by them. Very boom, boom, boom. Everything's like business, no games, They don't say, gee, how did the Yankees do last night? Oh, that was a wonderful. They don't care. They don't care about anything. I said, do you ever go to a Broadway play? I'll take you to one. Do you ever have plays like, do you ever go? No, I don't. No.
I like that last part. Do you want to go to a Broadway play? I'll take you to a Broadway play. I'll take you. I'll get you some nice popcorn. Would you like a popcorn, maybe a medium? Get you a nice fountain Coke with the ice in it. Very delicious. I'd have to tell you, it's unbelievably delicious. When the lights go off, do you want me to touch it? Maybe I'll touch it? Okay, all right, I'm going too far there. Anyway, so here's why this clip is really interesting to me. We've seen this pattern throughout his entire time in office and since he's been in office. He has really, really high praise, not just for other world leaders, but also he almost saves like the most over-the-top praise for the more authoritarian leaders. And what that tells me is he really has internalized this idea that we already live in a meritocracy, not just in the political world, but also in the business world. We're like, look, if you've made it to the top, it's because you're the cream of the crop. And the cream always rises to the top. And you're just better. You're just more intelligent. You're just brilliant. And he very clearly expresses this sentiment time and time and time and time and time again. Guys, that is a fundamentally idiotic, but also super elitist point of view. Because I got news for you. The people who make it to the top in politics and the people who make it to the top in the business world, quite often These are people who are the most ruthless, the most shameless, the most Machiavellian, oftentimes people who started with a massive advantage in the first place, born into wealth or born with a big name or whatever. And so his view here is super elitist and really, really dumb. And by the way, he also goes back and forth in this interview between saying about our leaders, they're idiots, total idiots, really stupid, terrible people, really dumb, very idiotic. He says that a number of times. And there's another point where he's asked about Biden and like who's controlling Biden. And he goes, I think it's Kamala. I think it's the people around. It's the radicals. And you know what? These politicians, they might be extremists. They might be radical, but they're very, very smart. They're very, very smart. So wait, which is it? You just called them idiots and now you're calling them very smart. Which is a total contradiction, doesn't care to fix it, thinks contradictions don't apply to him. He has something missing from his brain where he doesn't realize that he can do a contradiction, right? But this clip is so telling to me. He like looks up to people in positions of authority around the world, authoritarian leaders, and he really thinks like they're the most brilliant, they're the most intelligent, they're the most powerful, that's why they got where they are. That is definitely not true. They're the most ruthless, they're the most shameless, they're the most corrupt, and that's oftentimes why they're in those positions, but he doesn't see it that way. It's really unbelievable. All right, final one.
I often say, they said to me the other day, one of your fellow journalists said, who's the biggest problem, sir? Is it China? Could it be Russia? Could it be North Korea? No, I said, the biggest problem is from within. It's these sick, radical people from within, because we can handle, if we're smart, we can handle Russia, China. I did. I took in billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars from China.
Okay, you get the gist of it. I think this clip really shows you just how much he's lost a step. He hasn't lost one step. He's lost like 7 steps. Because the 2016 version of Trump on the campaign trail, he didn't do stuff like this. He didn't say stuff like this. He was more about like, there's a corrupt political establishment that's screwing you and I'm going to go after them. And he was lying every step of the way. He didn't govern in that way at all. But that line is a powerful line and it strikes as true to people. He's totally switched that now to just extremely ruthlessly partisan talking points where he's like, the enemy is the radical within, which to him means Democrats. You know, it's Democrats, it's people on the left. It's basically people who disagree with me. They are the enemy within. And you're never going to win with that kind of a messaging. You're never, I mean, it reminds me of, in some ways, Mitt Romney's like the 47% who are takers and parasites and moochers, you know, stealing from the productive 53% or whatever it was, right? And in his mind, that was like, Democrats bad, Democrats lazy. And that blew up to the point where it, you know, basically tanked Mitt Romney. It's one of a few things that tanked Mitt Romney. Because that sort of like ruthlessly partisan, people who disagree with me are evil, that's never going to work. Like, look, I'd have no problem with saying like, the problem is the enemy within. If by the enemy within, you mean the ruling class, you mean the elites, you mean the moneyed interests, you mean the multinational corporations that are robbing the American people, that's a different thing. And that's something that I think is more fair. But if you say that, you know, the problem is the enemy within, and what he means is just Democrats and people who disagree with me, good luck in a general election, man. Good luck with that. So look, he's lost a step. He's lost many steps. And I also find it kind of hilarious. I wonder what Tucker Carlson said to Trump and how he groveled to him after that news came out, which exposed secret texts where he called Trump a demonic force. He said he hates Trump with a burning passion. And now he's getting an interview with him. My guess is he was for real, like on his knees. Remember how Trump always tells the story? He came to me, I could have said, get on your knees. They would have gotten on their knees. I think Tucker may have actually gotten on his knees because Trump definitely would have took that personally and fired back. And Tucker probably had to be like, no, sir, no, it was totally fake news. I never said anything like that. They're trying to divide and conquer us. I love you so much. Watch, I'm going to do a monologue tomorrow about how much I love you. And then he got back in his good graces somehow. But no, Don, I think this guy actually hates you. And this guy actually knows that you're full of shit. He knows the election wasn't stolen. We know that he believes that based on the text messages. So I don't know how he groveled to Trump and what he did to get back in his good graces, but he did something. And then here's Tucker, again, routinely cucking himself to Trump. So anyway, there you go. Totally unhinged, unglued, insane interview. And this is where we are. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.